Music for Worship here, welcoming you back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to pretty much explain a little bit more depth when it comes to music theory, because in the last video, we talked about the basics, just the pure basics about circle of fifths. What is it? What does it do? And just basic transitions from the key of C into the key of G. Now, in this video, I'm going to get a little bit more in depth by using more scales, more scales, and basically also mentioning how to get into the flat system. Now, and then I'm also going to use a sentence. I'm going to teach you sentences that would allow you to basically remember the order of sharps, because there is a way that you can make this go faster. That's using a sentence when it comes to the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths. So let's get right to it. So let's go to the blackboard, and we're gonna get right into it. So in the last video, we basically mentioned that we have many different scales in music, and we said that in the circle of fifths, they have all the scales and how to transition. Now, we started first in the key of C. So we started in the key of C. Now, we're going to try to figure out how do we get into the next, scale. And the way that we did that is we counted to the fifth note, which is why they call it the circle of fifths, we counted to the fifth note in the key of C, and to get to the next note. So I'm going to write this temporarily, and you'll see where I'm going with this. So the key of C is as follows. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C again. So now we're going to get into what to figure out in terms of getting from one scale to the next in the order of the circle of fifths. So how do we do that? I mentioned that we do that by going into the next line to the fifth note of the key. So now let's do that and let's work on it together. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that means that in this scale, the fifth note would be the G. So we're going to write G on the next one. Now we're going to figure out what is the next one after G. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write down the scale and we're going to see what's next. But before we do that, we need to know what note becomes sharped. Because when you go forward in the circle of fifths, you're sharpening notes. So as you go forward, as we go forward, you add sharps. Now here's something that I'm going to mention, but I'm going to mention it briefly, and I'm going to get back to it later on in the video. Now, to go backward, you subtract sharps. Sorry if you can't see it. Let me just move this a little bit forward. So you see that? So in this case, you're taking away sharps. Now, what's going to happen if there are no sharps to take away? Then you're going to add another thing. You're going to subtract sharps or add flats. Now I know it's small, but I'm sure you'll be able to see it. Making sure that it's viewable. So in this example right here, what we're doing is when we're going backwards, we're subtracting sharps, and we're also taking away, or we're also adding sharps if there's none. Now, what happens, let's think about it in the other way. What happens if there are already sharps there? How do we move forward if there are sharps? That gets into more advanced theory, and that I won't get into it. But this is the simplest methods for now. So in this case, if it's forward, let me use this. If it's forward, we add sharps. But if it's backwards, we either subtract sharps or add flats. So now let's go over. Now remember that. If you have a notebook and a pen and a paper, always refer to this. Or if you try to remember where in the video it is, look at the time frame on the YouTube videos thing where you see the numbers, and remember the number where you see this, because I'm going to erase this. So that's what you do in the case of the circle of fifths or fourths. So now we're going to go into learning what letters become sharp in the next scale. So the way we do that is we do one of two ways. The first way, which is the easier way, which is basically to go backwards a whole step from the number that the letter that we've just decided was the next scale. So if the next scale was G, we go backwards 1. So let me draw that. So in this case, if this is this one, if this is the one we selected, to find out what note gets sharp, what we do is we go backwards a whole step from the G, which in this case, it's the F. Now, the second way, which is the preferred way, it's a little bit harder, but it comes up in the same result, is you count up to 4. So you go from 1, 2, 3, and then 4. No matter what method you try, you can see that 4 is or going the easy way of going back and referring to the previous one, that one is the one that we're going to add sharps to. Now, it's a different system on when you're adding flats, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. Now, what that means is in the scale, we will write all the letters in the key of C, but the F will have the number sign on it. So now let's erase this, and now let's show what it is to have the key of G now. So now we're going to focus on the key of G. Now remember, the key of C is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So now in this case, we're going to refer to the key of G, and we're going to take that F that we talked about, and we're going to add the number sign. So now let's write the key of G. So the key of G is as follows: G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Here's the F. Here's the F in the scale. Now, what are we going to add to this to make it the G scale? Because if I wrote the F and then went back into G, we're in a weird kind of scale of C where it starts with G, and we don't want it to look like that. So we're going to add the number sign. And the number sign, I would recommend doing it small when you're just starting, because you just put it right next to it. So F sharp, and then back to G again. So, as you can see, that is the G major scale. Now, we're going to go over this exercise again to go on to the next scale. So remember, in this scale, did I drop anything? Okay, no, I did not. Oh, so I think, let me move this microphone down. Let's see. Sorry if you're hearing. Sorry if you're hearing little rattly noises. I'm just trying to make sure I don't feel it in my face. So, in this, this is the G major scale. Now we're going to figure out what is the next one. Now, to do that, we're going to use the preferred method, not the easy method. So, how do we figure out what note is the next one? So we're going to count up to 5. Remember, we're always counting to the 5th note. And that 5th note is going to tell us what note is going to be added. Is going to be added to this list of the sharps. Now, in the previous video, we added some numbers above to show how many sharps it has. So in the key of C, it had 0. Now in the key of G, we're adding 1. Now this one is going to have 2. But which one is it? Let's find out. So let's count up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that note is the D note. So what that note means is that this note is the next one up. And this note will have 2 sharps. Now, here is the interesting bit. We need to find out what note gets sharp. But we also got to factor in one other thing. This F sharp right here. When we had to figure out what note becomes sharp, we only had all basic notes, just the white notes. But now we have a sharp. Do we include that sharp or do we convert to? Now the answer is yes. You keep the sharp that you have already. I'm going to clean my glasses. So as you can see, there's a sharp on the F. So that means that the F is already going to be sharped in the D major scale. Now we need to figure out what note we're going to do next. So what we do is we count up to 4. And that 4 is going to tell us what note we're going to sharp next. Now we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4 is the C. Now remember when I said that you can also use the key of 4 to sharp. You remember when I said that we can use the key of the circle of fifths or fourths to determine to when we want to subtract sharps? Well, believe it or not, we can also we can do with flats. Well, as I said earlier, that also works when you're subtracting sharps, because doing it from C, you go back to the original key. But it is also, by small weird chance, the note that you're going to sharp in the D major scale. So remember, we're keeping F sharp. So now we're going to erase this. Remember this, because this is, okay, let me use this. Remember this. Remember this, because I'm going to erase it. Of course, if you want to look at it unlimited amount of times, you can actually go into we can rewind the video and you can actually see this. But I'm going to erase it now. Now, what this means is now we're going to have two sharps in this. So now we're going to write the D major scale on the whiteboard. And you're going to see where that comes into place. So now we're going to go D, E, F. Remember, we're keeping the sharp. We're keeping the sharp. Don't change the sharp. So we're going to go F sharp, G, A, B. Now remember, we have two on here. It shows that we have two sharps. And we're now going to have a C sharp in the scale. So we're going to have C right over here, and then the number sign, and then D again. Now, you're starting to see that it's starting to change a little bit and warp a little bit. In the C major scale, you notice everything was plain, everything was orderly and like that. But now you notice it's starting to sound a little bit wavy, because we're now entering into sharp territory as we go along. Now we have this major scale to contend with. And now we're going to figure out what is the next order in the circle of fifths. So we're going to do those steps right over again. We count up to 5. This will be the last one I'm doing, and then the rest I want you to do on your own. And then try to do that. Now, the sentence I'm actually going to reveal in the next video. And because I think that would be good for you guys to start getting used to learning this process, because if I gave you the sentence, I'd pretty much be giving you the answers. So in the next video, I'm going to give you the sentence. So I'm going to give you time to learn this stuff, and then I want you to tell me in the comments what is the next one using your own methods. Don't want you cheating. I don't want you cheating. I don't want you looking it up online. I don't want you consulting a music teacher. I don't want you consulting a music professor or anybody in the music field. I don't want you asking your friends. I don't want you consulting textbooks. No research or no asking for answers. I want you to do it by yourself. So, this will be the last one. So we're going to count up to 5 again. And we're going to find out what is the next one. So now, we went from 0 to 1 to 2. So now this one is going to be one more up. So now this one's going to have 3. Okay, I think that I wrote it wrong. 3. Now this one's going to have 3 sharps. So now we're going to find out which one actually becomes next note in the circle of fifths. So we're going to count up to 5 again. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we know A is the next one. And now we're going to find out what is the next one that's going to be sharped. Now, I'm not going to write out the A major scale because I want you to do that on your own. And then I want you to figure out the next sets on your own. I want you to do the next 3 sets. And then write out the answers in the comments below. So now, what I want you to do is figure out, and I'm going to stop here, which one of these is going to be sharped next. And that's how I'm going to stop on this part. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go in the reverse. And we're going to introduce flats into the mix. Remember in the previous part of the video, when I said that when you go backwards in the circle of fifths, or even using the circle of fourths, you either subtract sharps or add flats. So what we've been doing is been adding sharps. And when we count 4, we go to the one before it where we subtract sharps. So now we're going to go back to the C major scale. And I'm also going to erase this, and I'm going to write it differently. So I'm going to write C over here, and this one's 0, G, which is 1, D, which is 2, and A, which is 3. So now we're going to go to the reverse. And we're going to go to -1. Now, you notice that what I'm doing here, even though this is music theory, is I'm making a number line. I said that music, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but music and math are so interconnected with each other because there's so much mathematics in music. So whenever I listen to, let's say, people talking about mathematics, about adding fractions and stuff like that, you can also have a musical connection because there's numbers and math and all these things in music. So now we're going to go on to the -1. Now I'm also going to write down the C major scale as per usual. Now the difference is that in this case you're going to be figuring out flats. So we're going to write C, D, E, E, F, G, A, B, and C again. So now we have the C major scale once again. Now this time we need to figure out a way to figure out flats. How do we figure out flats? How do we figure out flats? So, remember when I said that we also are referring to the circle of fourths? So, the circle of fourths is when we count to 4. Now, in this previous example, we used the circle of fifths to refer to sharps. So now we're going to use the circle of fourths, and we're going to talk about flats. And then we're going to do something a little bit weird to come up with the flats number. Now, the way they figure this out is by counting up to 4. That'll tell us the next scale we're going to move backwards to start incorporating flats. So to do that, we're going to count up to 4 on the key of C. Now we did this before when we figured out what note we had to go to sharp the note for the next scale. So we already did this, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is F. Now F is going to be the scale where we're going to have a flat in it. So which means that F is the one we're going to go to next. Now, so now we see -1, also known as a flat, on F. Now we're going to figure out how do we know what note we flat in the F major scale. Now this is where we're going to get a little bit weird. Because watch this. We're going to do 2 methods. the first method is going to be the one that we're accustomed to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to write out the F major scale. We're going to omit the flat and we're going to put it last. This one's a little bit easier. Well, this one's a little bit harder, but it's easy at the same time. So we're going to write the F major scale right here without the flat in the scale. So we're going to go F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Now we're going to find out what note do we flat. The way that we do that is we actually count 4 into the next one. And ironically, the 4th note is also the note that we're going to be flatting. So, we're going to count up to 4 in the F. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is B. So we're going to flat the B. So putting the flat right there. And let me see, can F be seen? Yes, I can. And ironically, that flat that I put on the B, that B flat is also the next one up in the sharps. So we're going to go B flat, which is -2. But it spoils the fun if you think about it, because it's only one system and we want to have a nice little pretty 2 system here. So we're going to refer back to the key of C for a moment. Let me fix this G. So we're going to figure out what we go to go to the next one from F. So using the key of C, it's going to be a little bit interesting. You know how when we went a whole step behind to get to the next note? Now in this note, because we're flatting the note, we're going to flat the original key scale that we used by a half step. So in this case, we're going to take this C over here and we're going to flat it. We're going to move one note behind, just like how we did with the sharps. It's the same principle, but the connection between C and B is not a whole step anymore. It's a half step. If you learn about how to write out major scales, you'll see that it constitutes a set of whole steps and half steps. Or if you're in England, tones and semitones. And for those of you who are in England, when you make the sharps, you go a tone before to know what sharp to do. But for flats, you use a semitone or a half step. So when we go backwards into the letters of C, one note before, you get the B again. Now this step, this way of doing it, is easier when you think about it, because you're not figuring out what is next. It's the same principle in everything, just worked out a little bit differently. So we're going to keep doing this, and I also want you, I'm going to stop right here, to come up with the next 3 iterations going backwards. So for your homework, I want you to tell me in the comments below the next 3 iterations going forward when you're adding more sharps. So what I want from you is essentially go from, so what I want from you is 3 iterations going this way and going that way. So what I want you to do is to give me 3 iterations. One iteration is to go backwards, going this way. So what I want to see from you is I want you to go up to -5. So -3, -4, and -5. And then I want you to go to 3 iterations this way on the positive. So by the time you finish with the positive iterations, you're going to go up to 6. So 4, 5, and 6. So I think that'll be it for today. What I want from you is to give you those iterations, and then I'm going to tell you the answers in the next video, and then I'm going to tell you the sentence that is used to remember all of this that you're going to learn. And this will be a way to remember what notes become sharped and what notes become flatted. So this is Music for Worship. I will see you in the next video. God bless you. And goodbye. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, hit a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, subscribe to my channel by following the circle in the middle, and you know what to do. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.